2 days after an airstrike that killed Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah in southern Lebanon, Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Galant has hinted once again that Israel could be preparing to launch a ground offensive against the Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah, remember, is a group that is backed by Iran and has a presence in the Lebanese political system as well. The Israeli military's tanks were seen massing in the northern part of the country near the Israel-Lebanon border on Monday. Hezbollah says it is ready for any Israeli land invasion in Lebanon. Israel, remember, has invaded Lebanon twice in the past. Hezbollah has fired a barrage of rockets at northern Israel amidst the group's promise that it will exact vengeance after the killing of its leader, Hassan Nasrallah. That's the latest that we're getting in from Lebanon and from Israel at this point of time. I want to go across to India today's Ashraf Wani, the first Indian journalist on the ground in southern Lebanon. He's been reporting from the impact points where airstrikes have taken place. Ashraf, the Defense Minister of Israel has hinted very strongly now that a ground offensive could be next. What are you hearing on the ground? Those airstrikes still continue?
Absolutely, that is the strategy which has been so far giving the impression here in the Lebanon. We have seen the spike of strikes by the Israeli defensive forces, not only in the southern part of this country, where since last 1 year war is going on between Hezbollah and Israel, but now the area of escalation has increased during last 1 week, particularly after the attacks on the Hezbollah headquarters. We are getting reports today, even on Monday, that Raqqa Valley is under fire under the rockets. I am in the Siddaramaiah, which is the city in the southern part of Lebanon. A massive blast carried out during the night here, in which 30 people got killed and near about 70 injured. And the impact of these blasts is visible, that it brings multi-story buildings on ground and you can see nothing. Each and everything what is inside the building that gets buried under those debris. That I witnessed it today. Probably in the late hours we will show that exclusive ground report from Siddaramaiah to our viewers. But one thing is clear, for last 1 week or more than 1 week, Israeli defensive forces are preparing for the ground invasion. They have already deployed tanks, armored vehicles on the southern border of Lebanon, which is the very hot border so far since last 11 months. But the ground invasion for the Israel will not be so easy as it is to carry out the aerial strikes, which deliver results for them. But the one-to-one battle in the ground invasion will be very tough for the Israel, as Hezbollah is not the Hezbollah what it was in 2006 when it compelled IDF to leave the Lebanon.
Ashraf, also, have these airstrikes, impacted in a big way the Hezbollah's ability to strike back? Do they still have their weapons? Do they still have their missile positions, etc.?
Shiv, absolutely. Everything of Hezbollah has not been finished by the Israel in 200 or 2,000 airstrikes. I was talking to one of the leading doctors here in the Beirut early morning today. He said the new bombs, American-made bombs, used in the Nasrallah assassination has the capability to penetrate 15 stories of a house. You can understand what kind of bombing so far Israel is using here in the Lebanon. But even those bombs cannot collapse the Hezbollah. Hezbollah has civil weaponry. They have underground tunnels, like in the Gaza, in the southern region of this country. They have other set of missiles which are very long range, that was briefed by Hassan Nasrallah himself 2 months back in a video message that was called the missile city of Hezbollah. That is not sit under the radar, and its location is not yet known to the idea. Otherwise, that could have been bombed also. And after the operation, what was launched by the IDF in the Beirut, where Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah was killed, he was not sitting in any floor of the that building. His bunker was underground. and that was created after 2006 war by getting experiences of the military might of Israel. Despite that, Israeli defense forces managed to put their bomb in that deep bunker and kill him. But when the body of the Hassan Nasrallah was recovered after 2 days, the people said that it was intact. There was not any kind of damage to the body. That clearly indicates that how safe and how much underground network Hezbollah has settled in the Lebanon.
And these airstrikes are not going to stop anytime soon. Ashraf, please stay safe. Thank you very much for getting us that live ground report from Beirut. The first airstrikes have hit targets within the Beirut city limits as well, making the Lebanese capital become, as before, part of the active war zone and where airstrikes are taking place. Ashraf continues to bravely report from the war zone. Now, Israeli fighter jets, F-15s, F-16s and others are continuing a campaign of airstrikes, striking both northern and southern regions. About 120 Hezbollah sites have been targeted in this relentless assault. Meanwhile, Israel finds itself, as always, in a multi-front war, with its jets also moving towards the east to target Houthi military positions in Yemen in retaliation for ballistic missile attacks emerging from that country. Remember, Hamas, Houthis and the Hezbollah are the Triple H, the three proxies of Iran, situated in three different directions. The stakes are high, the conflict is escalating. Take a look.
This is what remains of southern Lebanon's Ain Eddel. Israeli army says it has killed another senior Hezbollah figure, Nabil Qaouk, amid an ongoing exchange of strikes between the two sides. This even as Israeli military tanks continue to mass big in northern Israel-Lebanon border. Israel has expanded its attacks on Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen, stoking fears of a bigger regional war. The Israel Air Force's refueling aircraft have been operating in all arenas in the war, providing fighter jets with flexibility in strikes and aerial operations at any distance. The Israeli Air Force is conducting strikes on military targets belonging to the Houthi terrorist regime in the areas of Ras Isa and Hudaya in Yemen, including power plants and a seaport that are used by the Houthis to import oil for military purposes.
We see the attack today, 2,000 kilometers away in Hodeidah and its surroundings, and the achievements, as they are reflected, are very impressive. And the meaning is clear. Those who try to attack us or harm the citizens of Israel will pay a very heavy price.
In Gaza too, Israel continues its offensive against Hamas. A new video released by Israeli army shows a tunnel in central Gaza Strip being dismantled. Israel is fighting wars on 3 of its 5 fronts. All the 3 fronts with the 3 H's. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in the Gaza Strip and the Houthis in Yemen are active and blazing. The opening of multiple fronts comes ahead of the first anniversary of the October 7 attack on Israel by Hamas. At the heart of the war is Iran, which provides significant financial, military and strategic support to Hamas, Hezbollah and Houthis, and the Iraqi and Syrian Shia militias against their common enemy, Israel. Israel's military actions in the war are therefore in part aimed at weakening Iran's regional influence by disrupting its ability to support these proxy groups. The killing of high-ranking leaders of Hezbollah and the targeting of Houthi rebels in Yemen are seen as direct challenges to Iran's regional strategy. Iran's response to these developments will be crucial in determining the future trajectory of the war. Bureau Report, India Today.
This multi-front war that Israel is now waging, using its fighter jets, using airstrikes, using missiles to target the Hezbollah, the Houthis in the Gaza campaign, This is relentless. It's been going on for the last few days and it's only been escalating now. India Today's Ashraf Wani, who you just heard from live, has been reporting fearlessly for the last few days from ground zero, including where those airstrikes are taking place, getting you first-hand updates from the conflict sites themselves. Take a look at the latest that Ashraf has sent us. The assassination of Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah in an Israeli airstrike has plunged West Asia into deeper turmoil. India Today's Ashraf Wani, who's in the war zone in southern Lebanon, visited the site targeted by Israeli missiles over the last few days.
A multi-story building has been targeted a few hours back, early in the morning on Monday, and this multi-story building has collapsed completely, and you can see nothing except destruction here. At least 30 people got killed in this Israeli strike, one of the biggest strikes carried out by the Israel in Lebanon since last 1 week after the Hassan Nasrallah's death in the south suburbs of the Beirut.
The ongoing war has caused immense suffering to civilians on the ground.
Israel on the Sunday evening targeted this building behind me here in the center of Beirut. 3 people died. We believe it to be the political leaders, some top political leaders of Hezbollah had been targeted in this building behind me. You can see everything is shattered here. How many cars had got damaged. There is the presence of army and the security personnel, in fact police, and how much devastating that blast had been in that multi-story building behind me, which has completely damaged it and has caused a lot of damage in that particular apartment.
Despite growing international calls for a ceasefire, both sides continued their attacks relentlessly. With hundreds crossing the border to Syria, looking for a safe zone, the streets in these areas have turned empty.
After Friday's missile strikes, in which not only the Hezbollah's top commander Hassan Nasrallah was killed, but many top leaders and the civilians had been killed in that Israeli attack here in the Beirut. Since then, there is chaos all across the Lebanon, particularly in the South Lebanon, where these strikes were carried out not only on Friday, but even on the Saturday too. Most of the people have fled from these areas and are now moving towards the safer areas, and thousands of people and families spend their nights in open sky in different roadsides, parks and the sea beaches here in the Beirut. Hezbollah has not only taken the oath that they are going to take big revenge from Israel for killing off their commander, but the indications are so that after the final procession and funeral of Hassan Nasrallah, this war will escalate. Hezbollah has not yet decided the day for the funeral of Hassan Nasrallah, but the Lebanese government has already declared 5 days of mourning, which will close on Wednesday. Ashraf Wani for India Today in Beirut.
And let's get a word in from the Israeli government system. Ms. Orly Weitzman is the new Consul General of Israel in South India. Ms. Weitzman, welcome. Thank you for speaking to India Today. Your assessment of the current situation. It's been a marked escalation since the killing of Hassan Nasrallah, the Hezbollah chief. How do you see how things are at present?
Thank you very much for the interview. You're correct. There's a lot still going on. Israel still has the responsibility to make sure that the north of Israel is safe for its citizens, and it's doing its utmost to make sure that citizens Israel can go back to their home in the northern after almost a year of being misplaced and having to relocate to other parts. Israel will make sure that this is secure, hopefully very much that we can do it in peaceful ways and in more diplomatic means. But again, we have to do everything that we can in order to make sure that that citizens can go back to their homes.
And how does Israel see the possibility of a major retaliation? The Hezbollah has just lost its chief and another rung of its leadership as well, apparently, in these airstrikes, Ms. Weitzman. And they've, as always, they've vowed revenge attacks on Israel. So how do you see that?
Israel's army is a strong army, and Israel will have to respond in any way in order to defend Israel. Israel doesn't want an armed conflict, and I'm hoping very much that the Iranians realize that it's not in their best interest to do this because they will be met with a very strong response. However, if they do decide to do anything, Israel is well prepared and will respond accordingly.
Ms. Weitzman, from the killing of Ismail Haniyeh, the Hamas chief, a few weeks ago, to now Hassan Nasrallah, the previous one Israel has not claimed credit for. This one Israel has. Both times there's always been speculation and suspense over Iran getting into this conflict directly, not just through its proxies. Yes, there were direct attacks from Iran in April this year, if I'm not mistaken. But is there still a sense that Iran could get involved directly, or what is the hesitation in your view?
Iran has a very convenient situation where it uses its proxies against Israel. So it's tried to do everything that it can in order to hurt Israel in any way that they can, using their different proxies around the Middle East. Israel deals with any threat that's thrown its way, whether it's via proxies or whether directly. So So as long as we are eliminating the threats that was mostly done through proxies until now, I think they maybe didn't feel a need to step in. I don't know. I don't make their decisions. Hopefully, they'll realize that any direct attack will be met with the same kind of response.
What are the boxes that need to be ticked for a de-escalation at this point of time from Israel's side? Has that changed at all, Ms. Weitzman?
So Israel has been saying, since the 8th of October, has said that it basically wants UN Resolution 1701 to be implemented. Basically, they have no threats at Israeli borders, whether south or north, and we're talking specifically about the north right now. Make sure that the Hezbollah is disarmed, not threatening Israeli citizens. If this happens in diplomatic ways, all the better. That's Israel's preference, and that's what Israel was aiming for and is still aiming for. And if not, then it will happen other ways. What Israel wants is safety and security for its people.
Ms. Weitzman, as you no doubt have seen on the news, there have been protests in different parts of India, especially in the north, in Kashmir and UP, elsewhere, in support of Hassan Nasrallah. How do you see that?
So I think I don't want to talk about the north. That's not my expertise. I deal mainly with the south. Yeah. But I will say that from what I experience here, a lot of people that I meet, a lot of Indians that I meet, there's a lot of understanding and a lot of knowledge of what's going on, and people who research it and try to understand exactly the situation are very supportive of Israel, and that's very good for us and very heartwarming, because we see that most of the people I meet are intelligent and curious and want to try and understand. Unfortunately, that's not always the situation. And there are people who are trying to make their own agendas, or people who don't really understand the situation and don't try and look up the situation to really understand the different points of view. And that's where I think protests happen mostly. But from my experience in South India, there is a lot of understanding of the Israeli position, and I admire that in the Indian people who really try to in-depth understand the situation, and when they do that, they realize why Israel needs to defend itself and needs to do what it does to make it.
Do you see any kind of a special or elevated role for India in what comes next? Can India play some kind of diplomatic role beyond what it is already doing at this point in this conflict, Ms. Weitzman? Last question.
So India is a very important ally of Israel, and we want all the international community to make it clear to all Iran and its proxies that it should be trying to maintain diplomatic solutions for this conflict.
Orly Weitzman, thanks very much for speaking to India Today. We will, of course, here on India Today continue to get you the stakeholders, the biggest voices on this unfolding story, the tension, the war in West Asia. Well, one of those questions that I asked Orly Weitzman of the Israeli embassy was about the protests that are taking place in parts of India, most notably in the Kashmir Valley. Big protests in support of the Hezbollah chief, mourning Hassan Nasrallah. Slogans and banners denouncing Israel and the United States have reverberated through the streets of Kashmir. But are these protests really organic? Is this public anger, or has it been stoked? Take a look.
Protests erupt in various areas of Srinagar and Budgam districts in Jammu and Kashmir over the killing of Hassan Nasrallah. Demonstrators took to the streets on Monday, chanting anti-Israel and anti-American slogans, holding images of the Hezbollah chief who died in an airstrike in Lebanon on September 27. The Bajrang Dal held counter-protests against the PDP and NC in Jammu, slamming them for backing Nasrallah. Political tensions escalated after PDP chief Mehbooba Mufti cancelled her campaign in solidarity with the people of Palestine and Lebanon over the killing of Nasrallah in Israel. Mufti's daughter Iltija lauded Nasrallah for backing the people of Gaza. Calling the Hezbollah chief Sahab, Iltija Mufti stated that she, just like Nasrallah, is against Israel's policy.
But our hearts are heavy, हमारे दिल में बहुत दर्द है. आप जानते हैं नसरुल्लाह साहब ने जहां भी आज़ाब शिकस्त जुल्म हो रहा था, खास तौर से गाजा में, उनने उन लोगों के लिए लड़ा जो उनके थे भी नहीं. He wasn't even from there. So our hearts are heavy, and people here should have the right to protest. अगर वो protest कर रहे हैं, आपको क्या problem है? They want to protest against the Israeli policy of genocide. कैसे जाके वो वहाँ लेबनान में carpet bombing कर रहे हैं? इसमें कोई गलत चीज नहीं है.
The J&K National Conference also expressed solidarity with Nasrallah.
जो कल हुआ, उसके बाद ऐसा लगता है जैसे पूरे क्षेत्र में अब जंग के बादल जो है नजर आ रहे हैं. हिंदुस्तान की हुकूमत को, हिंदुस्तान के वजीर आजम को, बाकी मुल्कों के लीडरान को इजराइल पर दबाव बनाए रख के वहां दोबारा अमन कायम करने की मुकम्मल कोशिश करनी चाहिए.
The Congress chose to distance itself from the controversy.
हम बाहर जो देख रहे हैं वो एक अलग जो दुनिया का नजरिया है, जो जिसकी फीलिंग है, लेकिन एट द सेम टाइम हमें अपनी डेमोक्रेसी को स्ट्रेंथन करके अपने लोगों के लिए आगे बढ़ने की जरूरत है. मेरा ख्याल है ऐसी सिचुएशन जो है वो क्रिएट नहीं करनी चाहिए.
The BJP questioned the intent of the NC and PDP in rallying behind Hezbollah.
अगर दुनिया भर में कहीं आतंकवाद के खिलाफ कार्रवाई होती है तो नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस, पीडीपी और कांग्रेस जैसी पार्टियां उनके समर्थन में नजर आती हैं. उनको गाजा तो नजर आता है, लेकिन ढाका में हिंदुओं की हत्याएं नजर नहीं आती. ये राजनीतिक दल तुष्टीकरण की राजनीति के चलते चलते इस तरह से अपनी रैलियों को रद्द भी करते हैं, आतंकवाद का समर्थन भी करते हैं. ये लोकतंत्र के पक्ष में नहीं है, आतंकवाद के समर्थक हैं.
Kashmiri pundits joined the chorus, slamming Mufti.
इनको कम से कम शर्म आनी चाहिए. जो 90 में उन्होंने नरसंहार किया है, जो गिरजा टिकू का कत्लेआम किया, उस तक इन्होंने मुंह तक नहीं खोला. उन्होंने जो बांग्लादेश में नरसंहार हिंदू के साथ उस वक्त इन्होंने मुंह नहीं खोला है. मेरी एक रिक्वेस्ट है गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया से, ऐसे लोगों को चुन के उनको एयरपोर्ट तक पहुंचाइए, जहाज में बिठाइए फ्री, हम उसका पैसा देंगे, उनको वहां पोर्ट कर लीजिए.
The protests by the NC and PDP over Nasrallah's killing come a day ahead of the last phase of voting in J&K. Bureau Report, India Today.
And Sunil Ji Bhatt joins me live from Jammu. He's been reporting from all across the state. Sunil, these protests that are taking place, these are obviously political protests happening because there's an election campaign on right now, isn't it?
Well, Shiv, ever since Hezbollah chief Nasrallah was eliminated by Israel, since then protests are being witnessed in many parts of the Kashmir Valley, particularly in the areas where Shia community members live. And now the political parties in the Kashmir Valley are adding fuel to the fire. They are giving statements that are pro-Hezbollah, whether it's the Mehbooba Mufti or Iltija Mufti or the National Conference leaders. They are saying that that Muslims are being persecuted in Lebanon, in Gaza, and Iltija Mufti has even gone on to compare Kashmir with Gaza. So this is being done in view of this last phase of assembly elections, which is going to be crucial when it comes to the final tally, when it comes to the final results, because this phase is going to decide who is going to form government in Jammu and Kashmir. And Shiv, as far as Kashmir Valley is concerned, protests like these are not because every time when there have been international, events or international happenings, there are segments of people and there are certain groups who, stage protests. They come out on the streets. Whether it was the when Pakistani leader Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was hanged. At that time also there were protests. Then see the irony, Shiv, the Pakistani dictator who hanged Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, when he died in an air crash, even that time protests were witnessed. When there when there was Islamic revolution in Iran and there were political happenings in Azerbaijan, at that point of time also there were protests. So now political parties are adding fuel to the fire because one phase of assembly elections is left, and these political parties want to gain maximum in these elections. Shiv, back to you.
All right, Sunil, thanks very much for that overview of why these protests have been taking place. Iltija Mufti, the daughter of former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister and PDP Chief Mehbooba Mufti, has, among many others in the Kashmir Valley, from the political system there, mourned the death of Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah, calling out Israel's attacks on Lebanon and Gaza. As the successor of an entrenched political dynasty in Jammu and Kashmir, Iltija's word carries a lot of weight. So it is no surprise that even the Kashmir Valley, the situation 3,500 kilometers away from Hezbollah strongholds in southern Lebanon, there have been protests by big crowds. The Kashmir Valley I'm talking about. Now, I've reported on Kashmir for over 20 years, viewer, and I can tell you that organizing a crowd protest is actually no big deal, even when it's over the death of some faraway personality that common Kashmiris feel really nothing for. But Iltija Mufti, who's fighting the Jammu and Kashmir election from a well-tested family bastion, which she will almost definitely win, and we wish her the best, she's displayed the deepest possible duplicity by invoking and claiming to mourn the death of martyr Hassan Nasrallah of the Hezbollah. Her words go, however, beyond the usual cynical posturing during this election campaign in J&K. They come at a time when Iltija Mufti is making a strenuous effort to carve out an identity for herself that isn't stained by perceptions of being a silver-spooned dynast who, after spending all of her life enjoying the privileges of being a Kashmiri fully insulated from the true problems facing common Kashmiris, is now ready to claim her legacy by ensuring those problems in Kashmir never actually go away. Iltija Mufti, who's had the privilege, despite being a Kashmiri, of studying in Delhi and studying in the United Kingdom as well. For instance, Iltija Mufti's recent remarks comparing the situation in Kashmir to the violence and chaos in Gaza or Lebanon reveal a glaring, cynical hypocrisy that I refuse to let go of unchecked. While both regions have experienced conflict, drawing parallels between them today is not only absurd, but deeply irresponsible. It harms the Kashmiri people. Kashmir in recent years, no matter which way you look at it, has witnessed significant improvements in security and development. This is not to say all is perfect, but comparing the situation in Kashmir to Gaza is a huge disservice to the sacrifice of the people of Kashmir and to both regions in general. More importantly, this comparison appears to be less about genuine concern for Kashmiris and more about preserving Iltija's family's dwindling political relevance. For decades, the Mufti family, with their political party, the PDP, have wielded influence in Kashmir by oscillating between a soft separatist rhetoric and aligning with the government at the center. They've portrayed themselves as the voice of the common Kashmiri, but it is becoming increasingly clear that their chief concern is their own political survival. The abrogation of Article 370 in 2019, which removed Kashmir's special status, marked a pivotal moment in the region's politics. For Iltija and her family, this change was more than just a political decision. It signified the erosion of their power base. Since 2019, Kashmir has seen a steady return to normalcy with decreased terrorism, decreased militancy, a revived economy, improved infrastructure, record tourism, and criteria across the board that suggest and confirm that things are actually getting better. Schools and businesses that were frequently shut due to strikes and unrest are now functional. Tourism, visitors are picking up, and life is returning to a semblance of peace that has been elusive, violently elusive, for so long. Yet for leaders, young promising leaders like Iltija Mufti, who should know better, this improvement is inconvenient because it undermines the very foundation of their political narrative, their silver-spooned dynastic legacy. The more peaceful and developed Kashmir becomes, the less relevant the Mufti family's rhetoric of victimhood and soft separatism appears. The solution? Tell the people of Kashmir that they actually live in a Gaza-like hell and constantly invoke the memories of terrorists like Burhan Wani so that common Kashmiris, who, God forbid, dream of a life of normalcy and prosperity, are drawn back into the morass of conflict and anger. That's the easy way out. Nobody should lecture Iltija Mufti or anyone else for claiming to mourn the death of Hassan Nasrallah. As someone who's looked at the Middle Eastern crisis for years, I even did a dissertation on it. I can tell you that there are no blacks and whites between Israel and Hezbollah or Israel and Gaza. These are complicated issues filled with polarizing emotions, and nobody can be faulted with having strong views one way or the other. Iltija Mufti is well within her rights to express her views. But it is the reason and the timing for the expression of those views that requires calling out. And that's what I'm doing right now. By equating Kashmir with Gaza, Iltija Mufti is attempting to stoke emotional fires among the Kashmiri people, many of whom have endured decades of instability. Gaza, as we all know, is a region ravaged by warfare, now has blockades, a full-fledged humanitarian crisis, thousands of deaths, including children, on a scale that is entirely different, incomparable to what is happening in Kashmir. Drawing this false, this dangerous equivalence only serves to incite fear and anger, potentially destabilizing the progress that has been made so far. Maybe that is the intention. It is no secret, viewer, that the Mufti family thrived politically in a climate of unrest. The more divided Kashmir was, the more room the Muftis had to maneuver, portraying themselves as mediators between the center and these many separatist factions. But with growing normalcy in Kashmir, the political space for such middle ground players is shrinking. Iltija Mufti's latest comments therefore seem like a desperate attempt to remain relevant by manipulating public sentiment with dangerous exaggerations rather than offering any constructive solutions. Instead of fanning the flames of fear and resentment, leaders like Iltija Mufti, educated, young, supposedly progressive, should be acknowledging the positive changes and working towards furthering them. This is not about the BJP. This is not about the PDP. This is about the people of Kashmir. The people of Kashmir have suffered long enough. They deserve leaders who tell the truth. They deserve leaders who don't make irresponsible statements. They deserve leaders who prioritize stability, peace and development over power games and emotional manipulation. Unfortunately, Iltija Mufti's statements suggest that her family's political fortunes matter more to her than the future of Kashmir and its people. That is the real tragedy. And there could be more trouble for Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah in the Muda scam allegations. We're now hearing that the Enforcement Directorate, which comes under the Union Finance Ministry, is likely to book Siddaramaiah in the Muda scam. Sources tell India Today that the Enforcement Directorate could book the Karnataka Chief Minister under the Money Laundering Act. Let me bring in India Today's Munish Pandey breaking the story first, an exclusive as always here on India Today. Munish, break this down for us. The Lokayukta has been cleared to initiate a probe. They've registered an FIR against Chief Minister Siddaramaiah as well. We also know how just a few days ago last week, the Karnataka government had withdrawn consent for CBI probes in the state of Karnataka. Now you're reporting that the Enforcement Directorate might be stepping in on the Muda scam.
Well, Shiv, at this point of time, we have been given to understand is that the Enforcement Directorate is likely to lodge a case under Prevention of Money Laundering Act on the basis of FIR which has been lodged against Siddaramaiah and his relatives. Now, according to sources, the Enforcement Directorate officials are going through the documents and based on the information which they have received, and ECIR is likely to be lodged very soon. Now, Shiv, it is going to be a huge development as far as this entire case is concerned, because remember, when ED starts probing a case, then the mandate is not only the named person in the case, but also all those who are related to the scam. And that is why it seems trouble mounting for not only Siddaramaiah, but also the relatives who are named in the FIR. One thing you truly pointed out, Shiv, which is going to be extremely important, because recently the Karnataka government withdrawn the general consent which was given to the Central Bureau of Investigation. But for the Enforcement Directorate, it is not going to have any impact, because according to Prevention of Money Laundering Act, ED is free to investigate any case in any state, and they have the power to lodge FIR, which is called ECIR in Enforcement Directorate's dictionary. So they are free to probe this matter, and it is likely that a case will be lodged very soon. Shiv.
Thanks very much, Munish, for getting us that. So a case is going to be lodged very soon, very likely to be lodged very soon under the PMLA, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, against Siddaramaiah. We'll keep a track of that story very, very closely. In fact, we've got some more breaking news now coming in. Okay, big relief coming in for Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Karnataka High Court has stayed a probe against the Finance Minister in the infamous electoral bonds case. Union Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and other BJP leaders have received huge relief from the High Court after it issued an interim stay on the investigation into the electoral bonds case. The court ruled that certain key elements must be present, including a direct threat and a complaint from the affected person. Let me go across to India Today. Sagai Raj reporting on this story from Karnataka. This is a Karnataka High Court decision to stay that investigation. This is big relief for Nirmala Sitharaman and other leaders. Sagai.
Absolutely. This comes after an affair which has been registered against Union Minister for Finance Nirmala Sitharaman and other BJP leaders in the state, including State President Vijayendra, where an affair was registered at Tilak Nagar. The complainant has alleged that all these leaders, including Nirmala Sitharaman and Vijayendra, are trying to extort money from the people and through electoral bonds. And subsequently, extortion case was registered at Tilak Nagar, and the police were contemplating to finalize the investigation team and go ahead with the investigation. And much before they could even do that, the BJP legal cell have knocked the doors of Karnataka High Court. They immediately filed a petition, and emergency basis the case was heard today, and the single bench has ordered that the person who have registered a complaint is not directly affected with this particular extortion case, because the sections which is being imposed in this particular case, if a complainant is directly affected with this, that's when it will be applicable. So the Karnataka High Court has put a stay order on this. The police cannot continue with the investigation unless the next hearing, that is on October 22nd.
All right, we look to keep a close tab on those developments as well. Relief for Nirmala Sitharaman for the moment. Thanks very much, Sagai, for getting us the latest on that. With Durga Puja around the corner, the threat to minority Hindus in Bangladesh is a story that most media around the world have turned a blind eye to. Hindus are now being openly threatened in Bangladesh. It's not even stealthy anymore. Barely 2 months after the fall of Sheikh Hasina's government in our neighbor country, extremists are now openly out on the streets threatening minority Hindus in Bangladesh and calling for Islamic rule. As Durga Puja approaches, it's in the first week of October, radical Islamic groups, which are now part of the power matrix of Bangladesh, have warned the country's Hindu minority not to openly celebrate the festival, stating that it's the land of Muslims and that they will land in trouble if they celebrate Puja. Hindus were also asked to leave the country if they plan to protest against them, reports India Today's Ashutosh Mishra. Organizations banned for anti-national activities are out in the open, demanding Sharia law in Bangladesh.
Where are you from in Bangladesh?
Sir, I am from Bangladesh, Chattogram.
Chattogram. So we have seen on September 2nd week there was a protest by Hindu groups when they were demanding safety, security, freedom to celebrate Durga Puja. What has changed after that protest in Chittagong?
So actually, they are not having any change in Chittagong. I want to read a script about this.
Okay.
Namaste, I am speaking from Bangladesh. Last 13 September, Bangladeshi Hindu are given 8-point demands to the government of Bangladesh. And we are request to the government of Bangladesh take action quickly to save Bangladeshi Hindu. But the government did not take any action till September 30. On the other hand, the government gifted the Hindus in Bangladesh by their obedient fundamentalist organization and movement coordinators, who they are trying to say those who are protesting in front of Chittagong Press Club, Hindus leader and journalist. We want to warning you. You don't protest in front of press club. तुम सब कुछ लेकर यहाँ से भाग जाओ.
And India Today's Ashutosh Mishra has been reporting relentlessly on these developments from Bangladesh over the last many weeks. He was the first Indian journalist on the ground in Dhaka after the fall of the Sheikh Hasina government as well. These are very troubling developments, Ashu. You've been in touch with the Hindu community on the ground in Bangladesh, but the images that we're seeing are extremist groups out on the streets. Many of these groups were earlier even banned organizations, now having a free run and openly issuing threats on the occasion of Durga Puja.
And Shiv, at the moment, there is virtually no presence of something called government. It's interim government. There are no ministers, all advisors, and all the radical elements, the fundamentalists are having a free walk on the street. As we speak, in fact, you remember there is one Mandal boy, some incident happened. There was accusation on him posting something blasphemy. The mob snatched him from police custody and beaten up to death. Somehow he survived. As we speak, there is a similar incident happening in Chittagong. One boy who allegedly made some comment, the police took him to police station, and the radical fundamentalist mob tried to snatch him, even vandalize the armed forces vehicle. As far as these incidents are concerned, that clearly shows that despite several complaints filed by the minority committee, the members, there are no preventive steps are being taken to contain such violence, and also the kind of threat that is being given by the radical Islamist groups and those banned organizations who are literally enjoying free walk. One teacher, one professor from IUBT college, who literally objected on such protest against Durga Puja just because of her objection, because there is no more freedom of speech for the minorities. The fundamentalists forced the institution to sack her And we have the videos where openly it was announced that now she is being dismissed from the services. So there is a discrimination, there is no religious freedom, and now there is no even freedom to express their opinion. So all these things that is unfolding in Bangladesh, the people are so afraid. They are sharing their views, they are sharing their story, the pain and plight. But at the same time, they don't want their identities to be revealed, because the moment these radicals get to know that someone is now, telling this story to the world, because we are the only channel reporting. I've scrolled through all these global media, Shiv, not a single platform that I've found who's reporting even an iota of these incidents and this kind of magnitude that is unfolding against the minorities in Bangladesh. So that also poses a great threat to these minority members, because remember, 3 days ago, right in the Chittagong Press Club, the radical fundamentalists even warned that if you do carry out any more protest, if you raise voice, you'll have to go back to India. There will be literally no one to save your life. So on that, we see this Durga Puja, one of the biggest festival for the minorities. Perhaps so far, it has been the biggest festival in Bangladesh. There have been national holidays. Looks like very difficult this time in Bangladesh for the minorities. But Durga Puja, believed to be one of the biggest festival, looks like it's going to be a very alarming situation, which is already we are seeing.
It's incredible how India Today and Ashutosh continue to be, a lone voice continuing to pay attention to these developments in Bangladesh. There is complete radio silence in the Western media. Most of the Bangladeshi press has been muzzled. Newspapers highlighting the plight of Hindus in Bangladesh have been forced to apologize. There is a real threat to independent voices in that country. And that's the reason why Ashutosh continues to bravely report on this developing story. Ashu, thank you for that report, and we will continue to report. After months stuck in space, finally, US astronauts Sunitha Williams and Butch Wilmore finally have a ride home, except they can't take that ride home immediately. The SpaceX Crew Dragon 9 has arrived at the International Space Station after months of uncertainty. Sunitha and Butch, still stuck aboard the International Space Station, finally get to say hello to the transport that they will be taking home, but only in February next year. The two astronauts are stranded and have been since June.
On behalf of Expedition 72, I just want to say welcome to our new compadres from Dragon Freedom. Alex, welcome to the International Space Station. And Nick, welcome back home to the International Space Station. It's great to be here with bringing the 72 back up to 11.
Thanks, Sonny. Alex and I had a smooth ride up here, and so first off, I just want to say thank you to the teams that got us ready to fly Freedom to the station, and it was a awesome ride. And coming through the hatch and seeing all the smiles, and as much as I've laughed and cried in the last 10 minutes, I know it's going to be an amazing expedition, so I'm really looking forward to getting to work.